Welcome to the Evidence Informed Teaching Podcast. Are you a teacher wanting to improve your classroom practice and deliver excellent teaching through access to research? Do you have a passion for teaching and are looking to connect with other like-minded colleagues through professional discussions? The Chartered College has partnered with TeacherTapp to support teachers to deliver excellent teaching through access to research, and we invite you to be part of this community. On this podcast, you will hear from fellow teachers, research experts, and you have the opportunity to be part of this professional discussion. You can find out more about the Chartered College of Teaching and TeacherTapp in the show notes. And if you find this episode helpful, why not share it with a teacher friend, take a screenshot and post it on your social media, or even better, leave us a 5-star written review.
So I am really delighted today to be talking with Anton Zastavnyi, who is the head teacher of the British International School in Ukraine. Hello, Anton.
Hi, hello. It's a pleasure for being here. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm actually not the head teacher. I have the official post of CEO, and we do have a big academic team. But I think, you know, in my position, it taught me that I have to wear many different hats and understand the teaching and learning process quite deeply. So I don't mind if I would be called a head teacher one day, but not now yet, not yet.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Anton. So I thought it would be really interesting for our members to hear from you about your career to date, about your school, about, you know, the circumstances you're in, because it's quite often in the UK, quite often we feel that we are under pressure. We feel that we have all kinds of issues that we need to be dealing with and paperwork that needs to be done and marking and planning and preparation and recruitment and all kinds of things. But my sense is that you probably have all of that and much, much more. So it would be really useful and interesting to our listeners to hear from you about your perspectives. So let's start with you and who you are, and, you know, why did you come into this role? What have you done before this role, before you're here today?
Yeah, so I have probably a slightly unusual path of joining the amazing education landscape. So I've graduated the law faculty in Kyiv, Ukraine, with the undergraduate and then my master's. But I've only worked in a law company as a junior lawyer or assistant lawyer for a couple of years. And it was a little bit boring for me, to be honest. And prior to that, I had a couple of jobs, internships in the court and the prosecutor's office. So that was my initial intention. I wanted to have some impact on the country and the place where I was brought up, and I was passionate about that. But after these internships, I realized that I don't have, I won't have the powers to do so, and my career path is not clear within that system, within those relationships that I've witnessed when I was an intern there. So then I went to the private practice in law, and it was, to be honest, a little bit boring for me because there was a lot of paperwork and not a lot of activity. And after that, I had an opportunity to become a manager in a restaurant, which is a huge turn. So I worked then in a restaurant, and I think I have a little bit of this entrepreneurial spirit, which allowed me to create more, perhaps. Now, this wasn't perhaps the choice, my choice of my life, you know, that I wanted to pursue for a career there. So I worked there a couple of years. It was a very interesting experience of working with people on all sides, working with customers, but also working as a manager with different kind of departments. So I learned a lot there because there was a lot of very interesting people who worked, some of them who worked all their life in the one place, which was phenomenal to me, for more than 40, 50 years of career in one in one place. I think this is something extraordinary which you don't see now very often. So met very interesting people. And then there was an opportunity to join the school, and I was also quite good with the language, with English language, and I think there was a new principal joining at that time. So and I joined more in the operations department, in the admin role, but also assisting the principal on legal affairs. So where I can use my skills and education there. And since then, I think in a couple of years, my role developed within the school. I get to know how the school functions better. Perhaps it would be easier to describe my role in the UK as a bursar with all the responsibilities that I had. And as a school, we also have a parent company in the UK. And there was a change of management, and that's when I had the opportunity to move to London and join the company there. And that's what I did in 2014. And I moved to London, and I was still working with the school, but more on the as well admin basis. On the operational side, I wasn't involved in the educational process. And I've developed a small educational consultancy while I was in London, mostly assisting children and families wanting to get into UK universities, and also some of the families who are relocating to the UK. And sometimes it's been as well to finding schools and helping those students settle. And then again, in the couple of years, as the school was growing in Ukraine, there was a lot of plans, a lot of ideas, and we still have those ideas to open another school, a boarding school actually, just outside Kyiv. And as we were growing, there was a necessity to be more hands-on in the day-to-day management. Obviously, we had a team, so we're a family of 4 schools, and we had a head of school in each of them, and we had a principal. So we did have people on all areas responsible for their parts of the job. And for the development phase, we needed someone who could take on the project and also develop international partnership, because we wanted to build it on the example of the best British boarding schools. So that's when I kind of joined in this role, working closely with the school in Ukraine. But since then, a lot of things changed, and I had to, as I started, wear many hats, and I'm trying to do so, until today, coping with everything that I have to.
Can you describe the school that you're working in at the minute? What kind of school is it?
Yes, I think of course, we're now in a difficult position. But what we do really how we want to get out of it, we really want to come out of this situation as winners and innovators. And of course, we're facing many existential challenges as a school. I mean, as an organization, in the first place, and maybe not just physically, but operationally, because a lot of things have changed, not in the direction that we planned, and all our school development plan was intended to. So I think by this year, we were planning to have a BSO inspection in the school. And at the moment, we're perhaps lucky not to have any inspections given the circumstances, and it's not possible to organize them. But we're reviewing all our processes and everything that we're doing at the moment, because half of our school is operating internally, so we manage everything. And part of the program, especially the international program, is delivered by partners online, because unfortunately we can't have the same number of international staff to fulfill those specific areas and subjects. So I think we're in the second year of operating in this new model. We're developing it, and also at the same time, it's a challenge for our Ukrainian colleagues there, because they had to take on a lot of new responsibilities. So I think this year is a year of transformation for us, because we understand that however the situation develops further on in the future on a macro scale, things will never be the same as they were, before the war, before the wide war, which has started in February of 2022. So we understand we need to develop new approaches, and these approaches require our local colleagues to be more involved in the process, especially in the international part of what we're doing, because we're a bilingual school, so we deliver both British, international, and Ukrainian curriculum. And it used to be that the international curriculum was solely managed by the international team. Now, this is not possible anymore. So we do have to, and we are trying, and we're really lucky with, with all of our Ukrainian colleagues who took on a lot of extra responsibilities, who took on a lot of uncomfortable, zones, which they probably did not plan to in their career. But I really hope in this way we could also grow a new, perhaps new team of educators who could spread our approach, spread our model wider in Ukraine.
How many children do you have, and what ages are they?
Yeah, so we have about 140 children at the moment, and we're a whole through school so it's 3 to 18, but obviously I think our oldest students are 17 years old. So and some of our students are physically attending the school, majority of them in Kyiv and Dnipro. Some of our students are online in different parts of the world. And
did I can't remember the timescale. So we had the worldwide pandemic. Did the trouble in Ukraine, the war that developed in Ukraine, did that happen immediately after the pandemic, or was there a bit of a gap?
Yeah, I think there was a small gap, which as everyone, I think there was the theme of getting back to normal,
yes,
back to normality. And then obviously everything else happened, and it started in, we could say in December, January, when the tensions were rising. However, we still did not expect the situation to develop in that horrible way as it did. So we were very much, had much better expectations, I think so. And
here in the UK, and I suspect in other places in the world, there was a lot on the news about the conflict in Ukraine. There were lots of images of families leaving homes and trying to come to other countries to seek safety and so on. How did you cope during that time with leading a school with so many families involved in your school? What was it like?
Yeah, so initially when things were developing in January and February, we discussed obviously this possible scenario, although hope that it never happened. So we wrote this email, which we're intending never to send, and it was even called like that. Our principal developed this letter, and when it all began, we obviously sent that letter to the families, in the first place parents, and then staff separately. But as our huge obligation to our international staff, in Ukraine, our big priority was to ensure that they are safe and that they are able to leave the country. So everything perhaps started in some orientation and meeting, but it was very difficult, to think clearly and calmly at that point. But what we automatically started to do is to prepare the evacuation of our international staff, because thank God we were lucky with parents taking care of the children, so everything was pretty normal in that sense, that parents took on their responsibilities and took the children home and decided on their future plans directly. And we were planning on how to assist our international staff and obviously those local staff who needed help. And the biggest the biggest task for the first 2 weeks was to evacuate the international staff. And that's what we've been doing. And the problem with that obviously you can imagine how the roads, all the public transport, everything was flooded with traffic, with people, animals, everything. It was a crazy situation. And of course, there was different possible scenarios of it unfolding. So some people thought that it will end in a couple of days, and there was such messages in the media. Some people decided, okay, we'll just rather wait, because if you remember, there was active military activity going on, so it was also quite dangerous to move around in a car. You never knew, what might happen during this. And it was also difficult to keep up the contact with everyone, because it's a lot of people and everyone has their individual situations and family members, some family members. So everyone were allocated to school in the first time, and then we organized transport and logistics to go to area in Western Ukraine,
Right.
and then decide next, because again, we still had hopes that this will end. People don't know what to do. Should I pack all my stuff? Will I return? Again, animals and pets who are part of the family, difficult to transport. What should I do with them? And all sorts of questions, which we probably were asked, as a school, as a management, but we did not have necessarily the answers to. But we tried to address them, one at a time.
Yes, I mean, that's one of the things when you lead a school, isn't it? That the community tend to think that you because you're in a position of authority, that you probably know the answers to all sorts of things that
Exactly.
possibly you don't. And I'm sure that must have taken a great toll on you. That must have been a really challenging time to try and do all that feat of organisation to get everybody where they wanted to be away from the school and to be safe, but also to reassure people about some things that you probably couldn't reassure them about. How did you cope at that time, do you think?
I guess at that point there was so much to do, so many things to cover. So I think at that point I was simultaneously, obviously there was, day to day and all the incoming questions from all departments and different kind of people to try to answer and find solutions for them. And then at the same time, we're trying to find a big hotel in Western Ukraine to move the people there. And it was also a challenge because everyone probably in Ukraine were doing the same thing. Some have already secured it in the past. So a lot of IT companies which are very mobile, they move their stuff. And so at one point, I think all the hotels and sanatoriums, even closed ones, not used anymore, they were all full with people, all booked in advance. So there was a really difficult exercise to find where to relocate people, because if we do, Ukraine is quite a huge country, so you cannot. The road from Kyiv to the Western Ukraine, so we went to the border there, it's about 8 or 10 hours. And in these circumstances, it was days. So you cannot just go straight away abroad. You need to stop somewhere because you need time. And again, we were thinking about, okay, how do we organize the lessons, What do we do with the learning process? We knew that we'll do it online, but I mean, when and how, and when can we start, and who can start, who can work, what kind of condition, mentally are our colleagues in? And obviously, we weren't asking anyone to do anything at that point, but we were thinking about the future. So what we should be prepared for.
Yeah, I mean, you said that working in that restaurant helped you build that sort of entrepreneurial skill. And I'm guessing those kind of skills were really, really important, probably still are actually, because it's all about problem solving, isn't it? It's about how can we take the situation which feels unprecedented and try and find a way through so that we can still provide education for as many children as possible. We can still support as many teachers as we can. how's the school running now? Can you sort of talk through a typical kind of, can you give us a picture of what it's like? I don't know, today. What's it like in your school?
Yeah, I think previous year we've been adapting to this, circumstances. Of course, our biggest loss is the many staff that we lost, international and Ukrainian, because Ukrainian staff have moved, a lot of Ukrainian teachers have moved abroad, not only from our school, but just from the country, and they found jobs that, in different countries, and that's where they're staying at the moment. And obviously the international staff moved on because everyone has their lives, and in the previous year we were able to keep a small cohort of our teachers, and it was great. It was amazing because they really helped to stabilize, because when the attacks are happening, then the learning stops and everyone has to go to the shelter. And if we don't have anyone who's not physically present, in the school, then they can at least work with those students who are online, or establish some kind of continuity they can set up quickly. So it's really balanced kind of our working routine now. Now at today it's pretty much similar, but we've polished a lot of the processes that we were working on in the previous year with our partners, because I think most of our partners are working with children, or their intention were to work with children who are homeschooled or living abroad with families in different countries, but still want to follow the British or international curriculum. And we're joined them as a school, as an entity with, of course, our classrooms and our form tutors and everything else. So there's been a lot of communication, synchronization. That's the most important, to make sure that everyone has a good link with the people who are responsible for a particular area. And at the moment, I think you won't see much of a difference between our school functioning and a school elsewhere. It's only the fact that when the air alerts are happening, then we have to go to the shelter and follow the protocol, which I think we've learned and already adopted quite well. Everyone knows what to do. It's just, unfortunately, a horrible part of routine, but hopefully they won't be happening as often as previous year, because it was really, really hard, and especially in the winter months when it's cold. It's a shelter is in the underground, and of course it has some facilities there. But basically when it happens, children and staff are required to go to the shelter and continue studies there if possible, and most do, as if it's just, again, part of life at this moment.
So you carry on teaching underground?
Exactly, yeah. Because you never know how long it will last, That's the problem. There's no time frames.
Yeah, it must be very challenging. So you've got the opportunity for lots of online learning with your international teachers alongside the face-to-face learning that's going on in the school. So it's genuinely hybrid. And
yes, it is.
Do you think if we hadn't had the pandemic experience, that would have been much more difficult? I mean, not that anybody would have wanted the pandemic, but there are some positives, aren't there? I mean, us talking now, the two of us talking now,
Absolutely.
you in Ukraine and me in Hartford in England, we probably wouldn't have done this. We probably would have said, oh, one time when you come over to London, we'll sit down and we'll record an interview. We probably wouldn't have done anything using the internet in the way that we kind of quite routinely do now. So I
Absolutely,
guess
yes. No, yes, you're absolutely right, and it helped because we were always working on developing the digital literacy and skills with the staff and students. But of course, pandemic, as for everyone, it kind of speeded up that process, and that enabled us to launch the virtual school in 2 weeks after the full-scale war has started in February. So we were up and running. Of course, there was some things that we could not manage in the same way as normal, and but we did work, and we did try to continue the learning happening with the students and keeping in touch. Yeah, so it is probably a credit to the pandemic and the ways that we had to overcome it.
Yes, and to the creativity and resilience of teachers.
Exactly,
I
yes.
in terms of, we had to find ways of communicating.
And the other thing is also, I think a lot of online schools have also were established after or during that period, which I think allowed many to receive access to, to the British and education in many other countries, because again, you can do it online wherever you are at the moment, which is good. But having said that, we do understand that it's not the same as people having physical contact and teaching and learning. I think it's crucial because there's some kind of magic happening between the teacher and the students when it's happening in a setting, in a physical setting, and we hope it's a temporary measure, but we do want to use the advantages of it as good as we can, because there's some subjects which are quite rare and difficult to organize, for our students in Ukraine. Maybe there's not a lot of students who really want them. Maybe there's only one or two, but we still want to give that opportunity for them to do that. For example, like film studies, and we won't be able to have a film studies teacher or instructor in the school when we can deliver that experience digitally. And as many other schools are doing that, I think, all over the world now too.
So I was fortunate enough about 15 years ago to come to visit Ukraine. I came on a British Council study visit with other teachers, and we visited schools in Lviv. And I was really impressed when I came to visit with the kind of sense of ambition of teachers that I met. They were really keen to innovate and to learn and to look beyond Ukraine to see what was happening across the world that they could learn from. Do you have a sense that, in spite of everything, that ambition remains with Ukrainian teachers?
Yes, I'm very confident that it's there, and I think Ukraine understands that it can't just rebuild. It has to leapfrog whatever we lost. We have to leapfrog to the future and use all the latest technology and innovation available. That's why we are developing our AI strategy in the school now quite extensively, and hoping to use the artificial intelligence to facilitate the learning, but also to make sure that all of our staff and students are using it properly, to improve their, again, teaching and learning, because it provides so much opportunities. But I think not everyone realize the whole, I think, depth of this incredible tool that's become available. But on the other side, of course, we have educational reform happening now in Ukraine, and there's a lot of digitalization in it. And I think Ukraine has been on a path of reforms for many years now, many years in the school, at least area. And there has been a lot of great influence from European partners. And I think we were very influenced by the Finnish school system, which is amazing. But at the same time, I don't think that Ukrainian educators have a lot of access to the Finnish educational model. I'm not aware of any Finnish school in Ukraine where educators would be able to come and see how it works, how it looks like, how it should look like, and really not just to read that policy, read that workbook, and have that webinar. That's all great, but you do have to see how it works in practice. And I'm hoping that we, as a British school, will be able to deliver this and share our methodology, our way of working with students, working with teachers, developing teachers. Hopefully, there's something that will be developing with you too, with upskilling our teachers in the professional credentials. And again, this would create our school, develop our school as a platform for a new era of hopefully of Ukraine when it will flourish. And we understand we might not have the whole national impact. Well, at least if we could cover in the main cities, I think that's what we are aiming to do, have much more wider impact that we're having at the moment.
It's brilliant to hear that ambition is undimmed. And one of the things that of course, when I visited Ukraine, the Chartered College didn't exist, but now that we have this opportunity, a professional learning organization that reaches out across the world, we're really keen from our point of view at the Chartered College based in London, we're really keen to learn from colleagues all over the world. We're keen to hear from people like yourself, from school experiences, from teachers who are working sometimes in very challenging circumstances, but nevertheless are still managing to achieve results with their youngsters that mean that the youngsters want to learn, that they're motivated to learn, that teachers want to teach. This is all so much part of the heart of our profession, I think, that there's that sense. You talked earlier about magic, about that sort of, I mean, it isn't magic, but it looks like magic when you see that learning that's kind of takes place face to face or online between children and teachers. There is something rather wonderful when a child suddenly understands something that they haven't understood before. It feels like magic as a teacher. So the more we can spread those ideas, the better. And you talked about, I mean, you've been a member of the Chartered College, and that's brilliant that you are, and we hope very much that you will spread the word across Ukraine. We're hoping as well to work with some of your teachers to build their professional expertise through the chartered route. And this is another way that we can work with international schools to help teachers who are working across the world to be united in terms of a common bond of expertise when they're building that knowledge together. So hope very much that your teachers will engage with that.
Yes, I really want to add that our success going through the most challenging times in the beginning and during the past year now is also a credit to our international partners, who have helped us in many different organizations. We're part of COBIS, and COBIS is helping us a lot, and many schools who are part of COBIS we are grateful to organizations like Century AI, which we also partnered even before the February of 2022, and we were, I think, pioneering the AI use of AI in schools in Ukraine, for providing us support until this day, and also Firefly platform and many others. But I think that the success of Ukraine as a country will require all of those educators and involved in the education who moved abroad to, or at least a majority of them, hopefully, to come back and return, and hopefully they'll have a lot of new experience, new positive experience, and just interesting insights, how to develop, how to change, how to improve. And this is invaluable because there was never such an opportunity for them. So all of those amazing countries like the UK, which welcomed people, but I think educators specifically here, because I think they learn so much and interacting with those people who they met in their professional lives in those countries where they were, but also bringing that experience back to Ukraine whenever that opportunity arises, hopefully soon.
And when that opportunity does arise, when peace is restored, what are you personally, what are you most looking forward to?
Well, first of all, when everything happened, I think I was at COBIS and delivering a speech, being not in the best mood and condition, but I think I've ended it by inviting everyone in the hall at that time, and I think it was also broadcasted online because it was that post-COVID year when there's still a lot of participants joining online, and invited everyone to Ukraine. And I think that's what I would like to do, to see many of those people who were with us at this stage, but also anyone else. There was so many words of support just coming to our school mailbox from we don't know who, but so many people really kind of interacted and offered their help, and we were not able even to process all of that at that time and even until today. But I think I really looking forward, first of all, to welcome everyone who will be willing to come, not only to our school but to Ukraine. And I cannot imagine there'll be probably a boom of different people and events happening in that time. That's something I really want to see. And hopefully then as well we'll be able to have many more international teachers in our school, because this is really in the core of our school, to have those. What we are trying to establish in our school is a British environment, a British island in Ukraine, which people are kind of, joining or how can I say, diving into when they physically attend the school, because that's what we want. We want people to speak in the English language when they're on the territory of the school, and try, at least, even if it's difficult, But I think this is the way that creates this learning atmosphere, and it really has the expectations, sets the expectations for everyone to speak. Whereas, and we know it's a challenge, of course.
I mean, it's really inspiring listening to you speak, Anton. And all the time you're speaking, you've got a great big smile on your face as well, which people won't know because they're just listening. But the reality is, you're full of optimism, it seems to me, and that really is inspiring. And I'm assuming that compared with your career in law, you're finding that you're not quite bored right now. Is that right? So
it's never boring here. You can you can call it many different words, but it's definitely not boring.
No. Well, thank you so very much for talking to us today and for sharing your views and your experiences. It's really been very humbling, actually, listening to you, and of all the things that you are trying to overcome whilst keeping your school going and keeping the atmosphere, I'm sure, very vibrant and caring for your students. So is there anything else that you would want to tell our listeners before we finish?
Oh, thank you. It's a huge honor to be able to participate on your podcast, but also to share a little bit of our story. There's a lot, obviously, that we could discuss, but I think one of the most important things is why we have to remember it was doing it for the children and the future generations, but also for everyone around us, and that importance of, positive personal relationships, I think, is at the core of everything that we're doing. And as I think we discussed earlier a little bit, if there's anything specific as a secret, or something else to overcome these challenges, and I think that's one great British phrase that we have in many different settings: keep calm and carry on. And yes, from challenging times, I believe, and I think it kind of concludes everything that we're doing, and I think will serve us well, for many time to come.
Okay, well, I think that's a great place to end. So everybody, we just need to keep calm and carry on. It's been fantastic talking to you, Anton. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If you have enjoyed today's episode and would like to access more research evidence for your classroom, you can join the Chartered College of Teaching for as little as $196 per month at www.chartered.college. And remember to download TeacherTap free from your app or Play Store to share your views, opinions, and experiences from the classroom. Every voice makes the picture clearer.